If you're drafting your fantasy football side and playing your fantasy football league in any draft platform, can I encourage you, it's got to be on Keeper in 2025. Because if you can think it possible, you can dream it possible, Keeper enables that as a reality for you. There are so many incredible customizations that Keeper allows that nobody else can, will, or is able to deliver for you in 2025. We've already done a video with Ryan, the founder of Keeper, on this channel. And in a few weeks' time, we'll also got some of the new bunch of additional improvements and changes that are landing in the game. But if you haven't signed up to Keeper and imported your draft league over, whether it's single season, Keeper, or Dynasty, you can sign up now at the Keeper website, pre-register, and they'll get you access and you can start doing everything you need in your Dynasty and Keeper League now. You don't have to wait for coaches to jump in. None of it at all. You can do it right now. One of the exciting additions that Keeper gives you as a commissioner and you as a league to decide are unique position allocations and unique position gains that either might be ahead of or different to what champion data allocate to the other platforms that play draft. The good news is, as a commissioner and as a league, you can make the choice. Just go into the settings. Do you want to stay with the champion data allocated picks? And if you do, you can happily click that toggle option, or you can go with Keepers. They have said they are going to add a bunch of new, how big is a bunch? We'll wait and see, of additional positions into Keeper in January, and then have positional changes more frequently added into the game. So not just 3 times a year. So traditionally, it's generally around 6, 12, 18 for the champion data allocated positions. Keeper's going to do it based on 2 things. One, at the ends of rounds 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, and their positional threshold is going to be 50%, not a 35%. So that is what they've landed for us. You don't have to do it, but let's be honest. Keeper gets it right most of the time, don't they? We like Keeper. We're a little bit biased here at the Coaches Panel, but what I've done on this episode for you is I've listed 10 positional gains that we want to see from Keeper. I have no inside lane or knowledge. I'm not sowing early seeds of either dissent, discouragement, or excitement. I'm just saying, if I had the button to add some names into a new position on Keeper and I could only pick 10, these would be the names I'd be going for. Gaining defensive status, I'd award it to Isaac Cumming. Look, he only played 4 games for us last year, and I think the narrative for why he'd regain or gain defensive status in Keeper is pretty simple. He spent the vast majority of his career as a halfback, and those 4 games that he played, you could pretty comfortably just say there's not enough data to say that that's definitive and indicative about the position that he was playing should he manage to play out the year. He is headed to the Crows. The speculation is wing defender. To me, I just think you can justify it really, really simple. There was a lack of games. Give him that allocation that he had last year anyway. Just adds another potential 80s plus defender for us into the pool. The other defender I'd look at adding is it's crazy. It's a Ruben Jinby. Again, late last year, moved into that back line and actually looked pretty decent into that spot. Felt like he just played well with the ball kind of coming to him and able to react to the play a little bit more. There was enough games played there back there for me at the end of last year that while he may still pick it up anyway, I'd be pretty comfortable if Keeper said, you know what, give Jinby that defensive status. I also think it makes him at least relatively, marginally relevant, again, in Keeper and Dynasties, let alone in single season leagues, because scoring what he's scoring as a pure mid, you might be considering culling him, depending on the number of keepers that you've got sitting there. So for me, it keeps an interesting option there. Look, has he got top 30 potential? Probably at the upper echelons, but it makes him relevant, and the pathway and the reason for why isn't really challenging. It's fairly clear and simple. I got 3 mids I'd like to see added to the game. I want to see Liam Duggan add midfield status. Again, What if he goes forward? We can't get him as, yes, he can. Remember, with keeper, triple position players. So unless Duggan's heading to a ruck, you're going to be okay. But I do like Liam Duggan. I think he spent a bit of time through centre bounce last year. He did push up high, got some wing opportunity, was far from just the clear defined half-backer that he had been for big chunks of his career before that. I think you can add that. And while adding mid never really adds relevance in draft, it does add flexibility. Which again, if you've turned the player pool off, which I know some leagues do, you're going to need every little bit of positional versatility you can get. Harry Sheasel adding mid status. For me, I'm going to be honest, when the positions came out around about a month ago, I was really surprised he wasn't a defender mid. Yes, I know he did spend some time forward, but a lot of that first 2 months of the year was all defender, and then he spent a chunk of time through that midfield. I thought that's the positions we were going to see. I'm really, really happy if keeper allocated defender mid to him, given that's where I was projecting he was going to be anyway. So, yeah, could he pick up forward status? Look, it's unlikely, but again, with keeper, it's a possibility. So I think I'd happily add that to him. And then the other is Jackson Macrae. I think while he did spend a good chunk of time forward last year, he was actually starting forward, then pushing high up the ground through the wings, and then just never really got involved in the scoring from transition, which is historically where he's been at his best. So to me, I look at a Jack Macrae and I go, yeah, look, you can add that midfield status, regardless of where he's projected to play at St Kilda now. I just think there was enough data to go, you know what? Just give it to him. I think you could add him into that spot. Then I've got 5 more names. I think we could add a ruck. You know who it is? Mark Blixarves. He always just finds a way to be there, doesn't he? Like, he is the ultimate around the ground ruckman. Does still play that spot at centre bounce, but does so much work and ruckman-like work around the grounds. I think you could put him into that spot. It also keeps him as quite a keeper-relevant player for us. So again, 70s, 80s mid where he can be. He's kind of lost into the abyss a little bit without the position. I think with ruck, it adds another variance for us, and it adds another interesting selection option, depending on how you're drafting and where you're choosing to pick your ruckman, or in keeper and dynasty leagues, who you're choosing to retain. So to me, I don't think it's a stretch to say Blix is a mid-ruck. I think that's an odd split, I know, but that's really what he is. He's a mid-ruck. And then I got 4 players to add forward status. I thought really unlucky to lose it was an Ollie Dempsey. Yes, he plays wing a lot, but one of the things that's hard to track unless you're watching the game from in the stands is where he often starts. Yes, he's at the edge of the square, but it's actually inside forward 50. Then he pushes up deep through the ground. And so he's not just a pure wingman in the sense of running up and down between the flanks. A lot of his work rate is half forward, then moving deep, deep, deep. So it's this weird guy that you get him forward. He's still taking marks inside forward 50. He's still strong in that space. And I don't think Geelong have wanted to lose that, which is why he started half forward for such a big chunk of the year. Because it's like, man, if they get that, win that centre bounce, get that clearance and get that kick into 50, well, he's the type of player that alongside Neil, Cameron, Tomahawk previously, he can take that overhead mark. So to me, I think it makes sense that despite him pushing so high up the ground, it's often anchored as a forward. So to me, I think it makes a bit of sense for an Ollie Dempsey to gain or regain forward status. The others, look, I'm going to pair them together because I think you could need to put them side by side. I spoke to a good friend of the channel about a month ago about the rookies that are coming through for, not just for salary cap, but the new draftees that have added in. And he echoed a sentiment that I had a nagging suspicion, but I trust his watching and viewing of the under-18s way more than I, given how much more of those games he got to last year. And for me, I would add the number 1 draft pick, Sam Lawler, with forward status and make him a mid forward. And the other player from this draft crop that I would also add forward status to is a Harvey Langford. These guys spent a lot of time forward last year in the national championships and in the local under-18s matches as well. So to me, I just see both of them moving to that also being the roles they're going to play for their teams anyway. But I thought they spent enough time there at their junior days to probably justify it, because neither of these guys are pure mids. They are hybrid, damaging, marking, physical options inside forward 50 that if you get them isolated, gosh, they are really hard at junior level to stop and a match up on, let alone then when they do go into the midfield and become a weapon there. They are genuine hybrids where they're neither pure forward, they're neither pure mid. They are a hybrid mid forward. So to me, I think keeper could add both of those guys. It might add a little bit more for keeper and dynasty leagues when they're doing their redraft. It might just change a spot or 2 or 5 about where these guys go in the first few selections or first few rounds, depending on who's sitting in the player pool. But I think you could add that justification to give both of these first round draft picks the forward status and make them mid forwards in 2024. Well, 5, really. It's 2024 now, but in 2025. And then the other one, look, we've got to give a big name, don't we? I can't just give you these bunch of fiddly little names, and they're valuable, by the way. But we got to go big. So if they were going to add one big positional forward to us, who would it be? Look, there's a couple that they might consider, but I think there's only one that truly has oh yeah, that makes sense. Because you don't just want to add forwards into the pool because it's a quote-unquote weak or low top end of premium forwards for us. So we're all stuck picking the 70s and 60s averages guys. So I don't think that's a good enough narrative. It's got to be, is that person playing there? So Dawson played there a bit last year. I just don't think it was enough. DeGoey played there a bit last year. I just don't think it was enough. Bontempelli, yeah, he played there a bit last year. I just don't think it was enough. I think the one that holds the most water as a reasonable and justifiable cause to add him as a forward is Christian Petrarca. Ever since we started tracking centre bounce attendance back in 2020, we've got at least a indicator of why a player's position is or isn't impacted, let alone some scoring trends. And our friends at the Draft Doctors pioneered that, and now it's just standard, normal draft, let alone salary cap, classic data input that we track. But last year, Christian Petrarca, since 2020, when that data was tracked, he played 56% of game time last year at centre bounce. Where's the rest of that game time coming? His time on ground still really quite high. To me, I think, and we know this about track, he's damaging inside forward 50. There are some games last year where he almost played exclusively forward. So to me, I know he's so often been that mid forward, and never really had, in the eyes of champion data, enough of their percentage split. But to me, I think you can build justifiable cause that 56% centre bounce attendance rate. There's enough other allocation of game time and how he chooses to play and how Demons use him is that he is a mid forward. And so if they're going to add any big name, this would be the one that would make the most narrative sense to me. Are they going to do it? Don't know. But we'll find out early in January. That is when Ryan has said he'll jump on the channel. He'll join us and talk us through all the additional positions that are coming into the game of keeper. Those are just my 10 that I would love to see get added to keeper. Who would you love to see? You can comment below and let us know. Remembering, if you want to stay with the champion data cadence of player positions, you can. It's a simple setting toggle off or on to either go with the champion data allocation, to not have any positional changes at all, or to go with those that Keeper suggests. As a commissioner and as a league, you get to make that decision. But for me and the leagues that I'm in, we'll be going with what Keeper give us in 2025. We can't wait to be back chatting with you real soon. Ryan, the founder of Keeper, will be joining us on the channel multiple times throughout the year, not just to share the positional additions that come through the season, but plenty of exciting new initiatives that Keeper are doing. He'll be revealing exclusively here at the Coaches Panel. We're just a couple of weeks away from really that platform being open to everybody, not just those that have pre-registered, and also for him telling us who are the new positional gains that we'll see in Keeper in 2025.